Joining us now, Democratic candidate for Senate in Maine, Graham Plattner. Graham, thanks for being with us.
Oh, thanks a lot for having me, Katie.
You say the Governor Janet Mills, who you're running against for Senate, is not doing enough. What does that mean? What's she not doing?
So, and I just want to make it clear, this is not me talking about politics. I have been very engaged for a long time, past year especially, with a lot of organizations and activists around the state who saw this day coming. People who have been preparing mutual aid networks, rapid response teams, communication networks, people who really expected this day to arrive. And it's been very heartening and for me, in many ways, a place of hope to see how successful that organizing has been in order for folks to stand up for their communities. What has been very frustrating, and the reason I'm using my voice on this campaign to put it out there, is that it seems as though there is no preparation at the state level. I mean, the reason we are seeing people turning out in their communities, civilians, just community members doing the work of trying to track ICE movements, let people know that they're coming, figure out ways to support those who are sheltering in place. That's all happening separate from the state itself. And people are frustrated. People are
What exactly would you want the state to do here? What are you asking for Janet Mills, the governor, to do?
So past couple of days, I've been talking to a lot of law enforcement around the state of Maine. And what has been wild to find out, no one's been given any direction on what they're supposed to do when the limitations of their authority or their jurisdiction run up against federal immigration operations that may not be constitutional or legal. I mean, just as an example, I had my one law enforcement officer telling me about the fact that they don't know what to do if they get a call because ICE has kicked in someone's door without a judicial warrant. They're not sure where they're supposed to go, and they've received no direction. I think in a moment like this, where, and actually just to what Chris was saying earlier on your other panel, we are in a moment where we are coming up against gray areas about what the law says, what institutions can do, and what power is being used for. And I think this is a moment where just relying on institutional norms and power might not be enough. We need political leadership to have clarity about what needs to be happening. And I think one of the ways you do that is have a chief executive of a state let law enforcement know where the limits of their authority are. And right now, there seems to be a lot of confusion about that. Frankly, I don't think it is outside the bounds to want Maine law enforcement, state and local, to follow ICE operations in the state and make sure they're not trampling on the constitutional rights of Maine residents. I mean, I feel like that's very much what we're supposed to be. You don't even have to impede operations, but be there to make sure that people are being treated with their constitutional rights in mind. That's not happening. ICE is being followed around by moms in minivans with whistles and a signal app. That's who's doing the tracking of what's going on, not the organized force within the state that comes from state power, and it's not being utilized. And it's very frustrating to me personally because I've been engaged with a lot of organizers for months preparing for this day. The state legislature saw this day coming. They passed a bill in June of last year that was going to restrict Maine law enforcement's ability to share information with ICE when it comes to Maine. The governor refused to sign that bill. And it only, she allowed it.
Let me ask you this. The administration says part of why, this is their argument, part of why the clashes happen is because these states aren't cooperating, they're not helping them. Do you think that there is room for, on violent criminals, on what the administration says, they say the worst of the worst. Is there room for cooperation with this administration to get out the actual worst of the worst? And if there is cooperation, hand in glove, working together, would that mitigate, the grabbing people off the street, the getting the folks who are not violent criminals, the folks who have been here for many years but don't have legal status?
I don't want to be too dismissive of the question, but that's not at all what ICE is doing. In fact, they've taken in the past week, they've taken 2 employees of different county sheriff's departments who serve as corrections officers. They're taking law enforcement officers I'm who have gone through background checks, who are here legally, who have all the proper documentation. They're working in the country legally, no criminal records. So I can't. It's hard for me to really take the question when that is not remotely what is occurring, and frankly, the administration doesn't seem remotely interested in doing that work because they've put no resources into that. Instead, they're terrorizing communities in Minneapolis and now here in Maine, and we're watching federal agents murder American citizens in the street. It's difficult for me to see any kind of common ground with an agency that is that out of control.
I don't have any time left, so I'm hoping this next answer can be quick. Senator Schumer says they want three things. They want no more masks, body cameras. They want actual investigations and no more just street patrols by ICE. Is that enough, if the Republicans agree to it, to not shut down the government?
No. And if the government shuts down, let's keep in mind, it's because the Republicans refuse to strip the DH funding out of the larger package. They're the ones that have driven us towards this. We should not be sending any money to an agency that is currently murdering American citizens in the street on camera. I don't think more cameras are going to stop it. We've watched both of those killings from every single angle. And much to like Chris's point earlier, legislation can say anything, but we are currently in a moment where that's not changing things. The administration's not following the law. So I'm far more interested in what can we do on the ground to protect our communities than what language is going to justify us to give ICE $9 billion more.
All right, Graham Plattner, running for Senate in the state of Maine. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time. And obviously the invitation always stands to Governor Janet Mills to come on as well. Graham, thank you.